Good morning, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. It's Tuesday, January 6th, 2026, and this is your AM Update.
It's hope for every Venezuelan. This is a hope.
As Venezuelans celebrate the downfall of authoritarian leader Nicolas Maduro, many wonder what happens next. A young man reportedly posing as a woman arrested after allegedly vandalizing Vice President JD Vance's Cincinnati home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
The Pentagon initiates a process to demote retired Navy Captain Senator Mark Kelly after he participated in a video urging military members to disobey certain orders. And convicted quadruple murderer Bryan Kohberger's sister speaks publicly for the first time. All that and more coming up in just a moment on your AM Update. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, right? I have something that can save you money right now. You could cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk's Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. And as a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you are active or former military or a first responder, you're going to save an additional 20% every single month. That's awesome. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start by cutting overpriced wireless and consider switching to Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Kelly and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data for just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Kelly, and you will save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. Former leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and wife Cilia Flores in a New York City courtroom yesterday afternoon, appearing on narco-trafficking and weapons charges. The pair arriving at the courthouse via helicopter and armored motorcade from the federal facility in Brooklyn, where they've been held since their capture in Venezuela on Saturday in an extraordinary mission carried out by the U.S. military. DEA agents escorting the couple wearing matching tan jail outfits to the courthouse for the arraignment. 92-year-old Clinton-appointed senior U.S. District Court Judge Alvin K. Hellerstein is overseeing the case. High-profile attorney Barry Pollock, who previously defended WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, representing Maduro, appearing alongside his client yesterday. Maduro's wife Cilia is represented by attorney Mark Donnelly. Cilia appearing with 2 bandages on her face, Donnelly claiming his client was injured in the arrest and that she will require medical care for possibly fractured ribs. Both pleading not guilty to the charges against them involving narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, as well as possession of and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. Maduro speaking throughout the proceedings via translator, referring to himself as the president of Venezuela and a prisoner of war, telling the judge, quote, "I was captured at my home." Typically, defendants speak very little in arraignments, as any comments can be used against them in the proceedings. Judge Hellerstein telling Maduro, quote, "There will be a time and a place to go into all of this." Attorney Pollock questioning whether Maduro's arrest, carried out before dawn inside a Venezuelan military base by the U.S. Army's elite Delta Force, was lawful. Pollock arguing Maduro is shielded by foreign head of state immunity, hinting at possible upcoming defense motions. Prosecutors expected to challenge that claim, pointing to the U.S. position, also held by more than 50 other countries, that Maduro is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. The U.S. and others say Maduro lost an election to opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez in July 2024, but declared victory anyway, refusing to leave power. Neither defendant seeking bail, Judge Hellerstein setting the next court date for March 17th. At the end of the proceedings, one onlooker shouting to Maduro, quote, "You will pay on behalf of Venezuela." Maduro replying, quote, "In the name of God, I will be free." Thousands of Venezuelans living in the U.S. pouring into the streets, celebrating the end of the authoritarian leader's reign in their home country. The White House's Rapid Response X account posting reactions from Venezuelans living across the U.S.
We cry because now somebody do something. This president is the first president that do something. It's hope for every Venezuelan. This is a hope.
I'm want to cry, but also I'm happy.
I've been looking forward to this day for so many years. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you to the United States, and God bless Venezuela.
Meanwhile, some Democrats calling for President Trump to be impeached for failing to seek congressional approval for the operation. The White House argues approval from Congress was not required because the arrest was a law enforcement operation with the assistance of the military. Congressman Dan Goldman from New York releasing a statement reading, quote, "This violation of the U.S. Constitution is an impeachable offense. I urge my Republican colleagues in the House of Representatives to finally join Democrats in reasserting congressional authority by holding this president accountable." Axios, however, reporting behind the scenes, some more moderate Democrats saying their party should be celebrating the successful raid. One unnamed lawmaker saying, quote, "I think it looks weak. If you don't acknowledge when there is a win for our country, then you lose all credibility." U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania, Democrat John Fetterman, going on the record with Fox in support of the operation.
America is a force of good, order, and democracy, and we are promoting these kinds of values. We are the good guys. Let's pretend that now we are acting in a way. Now, remember, we all Democrats years ago wanted to eliminate him, and why have a bounty of $25 million if we didn't want him gone? Why would you do these things if you weren't willing to actually do something other than harsh language?
House Speaker Mike Johnson last night following a briefing by Trump officials.
The Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war, that is true. But it also vests the President of the United States with vast authorities as Commander-in-Chief. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, the President has the authority, as all presidents do, to deploy military forces to address threats to the U.S. and to enforce U.S. law. That is what happened here. The War Powers Act states that notification should be made to Congress within 48 hours following the initiation of hostilities. As we've noted, and I've made many public comments, that happened almost instantaneously here. My first call was at 4 a.m. by Secretary of State Rubio. Despite the claims by some of my colleagues, under the War Powers Act, there is no requirement for prior congressional approval or prior notification. And in fact, in this case, the intelligence was so sensitive, the conditions had to be perfect. There was no predetermination of when exactly it would occur. And if there had been prior notice, even assembling the Gang of Eight, for example, during the December holiday, it would have set off alerts and very likely might have been a leaked situation, which could have caused great damage to our forces, our troops there.
Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez swearing in yesterday as interim president. President Trump, who said on Sunday the U.S. is in charge of Venezuela now, telling NBC there will not be a new election next month. Quote, "No, it's going to take a period of time. We have to nurse the country back to health." The president saying Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller, and Vice President JD Vance will oversee the U.S.'s involvement in Venezuela in the meantime, and that Mr. Rubio has been in communication with interim President Rodriguez. A Cincinnati man in custody after allegedly vandalizing Vice President JD Vance's personal home early Monday morning. 26-year-old William D. DeFore arrested by Secret Service after allegedly striking 4 of Vice President Vance's windows with a hammer and damaging a Secret Service vehicle. Secret Service reporting the incident in the early morning hours on Monday, telling dispatch the suspect had fled the scene, according to local outlet Fox 19. Agents apprehending DeFore shortly after midnight. He was then booked into the Hamilton County Justice Center by the Cincinnati Police Department. DeFore, set to be arraigned today, he faces 4 charges, including 1 count of obstructing official business, 1 of criminal damaging or endangering, 1 of criminal trespass, all are misdemeanors, and 1 count of vandalism, a felony. At the federal level, DeFore charged with damaging government property, engaging in physical violence against any person or property in a restricted building or grounds, and assaulting, resisting, or impeding federal officers, the top charge carrying a penalty of up to 20 years in prison. It is unclear when DeFore is due in federal court. The vice president and his family were not at home at the time. Fox 19 reporting DeFore pleading guilty last April to 2 counts of vandalism for inflicting more than $2,000 of damage to a local business. He was sentenced to 2 years of mental health treatment and required to pay over $5,000 in restitution. In 2023, DeFore charged with criminal trespassing. though a judge later determining he was not mentally competent to stand trial, dismissing the charges. The Daily Mail reporting DeFore, who went by the name Davis at his $27,000 per year private Catholic school, now living as, guess what, a fake woman named Julia. A Facebook page under the name Julia DeFore with a picture appearing to match the suspect seems to have been created just last month, reports the Daily Mail. The profile likes another page called the Heartland Trans Wellness Center, an organization providing resources to so-called transgender patients in Cincinnati. DeFore's father reportedly donated to Kamala Harris, a Democrat Party PAC, and President Biden's 2020 campaign. DeFore reportedly growing up in an affluent neighborhood, just a short drive away from the vice president's residence with a surgeon father and pediatrician mother. DeFore graduating high school in 2018 as a national AP scholar, though he does not appear to have gone on to graduate from a four-year college. VP Vance posting on X, quote, "I appreciate everyone's well wishes about the attack at our home. As far as I can tell, a crazy person tried to break in by hammering the windows. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and the Cincinnati police for responding quickly." Coming up, the Pentagon initiates a review in order to demote retired Navy captain and now U.S. Senator from Arizona Mark Kelly over his involvement in a video urging U.S. service members to disobey illegal orders. And the sister of convicted killer Bryan Kohberger speaks out. I've been talking a lot about Riverbend Ranch because I love their steaks. Well, this season, express your love with a very special gift of premium steaks from Riverbend Ranch. This is the kind of gift you want to give to yourself. They have spectacular beef bundles that are wonderful gifts to friends, family, or you. Their prime rib roast and holiday bundles are only available while supplies last, and they're going fast. For the last 35 years, Riverbend Ranch has been creating an elite Angus herd by using ultrasound technology to identify genetically superior cattle with a focus on flavor and tenderness. All Riverbend Ranch cattle are born and raised in the USA. They never use growth hormones or antibiotics, and the beef is processed right at the ranch in their award-winning USDA-inspected processing facility. Avoid the costly middlemen, because the beef is sent directly from Riverbend Ranch to your home. This is not your average Black Angus beef. Order from riverbendranch.com. Use the promo code Megyn for $20 off your first order, and let me know what you think. That's riverbendranch.com, promo code Megyn. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announcing yesterday morning the Pentagon will move to cut Democrat Senator Mark Kelly's retirement pay for his participation in a social media video last year urging U.S. service members to disobey illegal orders.
Senator Mark Kelly. I was a captain in the United States Navy. We want to speak directly to members of the military. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
5 other Democrats also participating in the video. Senator Kelly, however, remains subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice as a retiree, prompting the Pentagon to open an investigation late last year. Secretary Hegseth writing yesterday that the Department of War is taking administrative action against Captain Kelly, issuing a formal letter of censure outlining, quote, Captain, for now, Kelly's reckless misconduct. From the letter, quote, between June 2025 and December 2025, you engaged in a sustained pattern of public statements that characterized lawful military operations as illegal and counseled members of the armed forces to refuse orders related to those operations. The letter does not name a specific order, though shortly after the video was released, the Washington Post reporting the U.S. conducted in September a second strike that killed survivors of an attack on an alleged drug vessel. Secretary Kelly publicly questioning the legality of such a strike. Here's one moment from CNN.
I've had questions about the operation in general, and I've been saying this for weeks, putting service members kind of like, are you stepping over a line here? Is this legal? They have tied themselves in knots trying to explain to us on the Armed Service Committee how this is legal. Not sharing, all of the information either, which is really troubling. But going after survivors in the water, that is clearly not lawful.
The letter accusing Senator Kelly of undermining the chain of command, counseling disobedience, creating confusion, and discrediting the armed forces. The letter ending with a warning that further misconduct may result in criminal prosecution or further administrative action. With the issuing of the letter, the Pentagon now initiating proceedings to demote Kelly's retirement ranking and lower his retirement pay as well. Senator Kelly releasing a statement reading in part, quote, "I will fight this with everything I've got, not for myself, but to send a message back that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump don't get to decide what Americans in this country get to say about their government." The senator has 30 days to submit a formal response with a final determination to be made in 45 days. Convicted killer Bryan Kohberger's sister speaking out to the New York Times, sharing the family's perspective on the gruesome slayings carried out by Coberger in 2022. Last July, Coberger accepting a highly controversial plea deal, pleading guilty to all charges against him, including 4 counts of first-degree murder. Coberger admitting to entering a rental home near the University of Idaho, brutally stabbing 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, 21-year-old Madison Megyn, and 21-year-old Kaylee Gonsalves to death. Coberger accepting the deal, avoiding the death penalty. Mel Coberger, photographed by the Times wearing a goth-style shirt, sporting electric blue, grown-out hair and heavy eye makeup, says she was about to begin a new job as a mental health therapist in 2022, but intense inquiries following her brother's arrest led to her agreeing to leave the post. She felt a sense of alarm, she says, that her brother lived just 15 minutes from the scene of the grisly murders, with the killer still on the loose. Mel recalls telling her brother, quote, "Bryan, you are running outside, and this psycho killer is on the loose," unaware that the psycho killer was her brother Bryan. Bryan apparently thanking her for her concern, assuring her he would be safe, then returning home for Christmas break, where Mel says she only remembers him bringing up the murders one time, mentioning that investigators were still searching for the killer. Mel describing her younger brother's struggles with his weight and persistent bullying as a teen, calling his personality standoffish, noting the family now believes it was related to autism. Those struggles, followed by a heroin addiction, Bryan at one point stealing his sister's phone to buy more drugs. Mel telling the Times the family worried that Bryan was on a path to an early death, but felt he was on a better trajectory after addiction treatment and acceptance into a PhD program at Washington State University, where he studied criminology. Quote, "We were all so proud of him because he had overcome so much." Mel telling the Times the family previously declined to give public statements out of respect for the victims and their families during the legal process, expressing concern for further traumatizing the families, though noting that Coberger's challenges cannot compare to what these families have endured. A book about the murders recently appearing on Amazon, published under the name Melissa J. Coberger, appearing to be someone posing as Bryan's sister to make money off of the story. Mel saying, quote, "It's painful. It's like being victimized, but not really being a victim." Bryan's mother, she says, prays daily for the affected families. Mel says she put each of the victims' birthdays in her calendar, so she will be reminded of them. Mel telling the Times the family was raised with lessons rooted in their mother's Catholic faith, that they grew up reading books like Little House on the Prairie. She says she never saw her brother behave violently, which is one reason the family found the ordeal so disorienting. She talks about a night shortly after the murders. She cut her finger in the kitchen, Bryan expressing disgust at the sight of the blood, but ultimately overcoming his revulsion to help her clean and bandage it. This was days after he viciously stabbed 4 college students to death in their beds, causing so much bleeding the exterior walls of the house were dripping red. Bryan Kohberger is serving 4 life sentences at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution. We'll have more on the sisters' interview on The Megyn Kelly Show later today. And that'll do it for your AM Update. I'm Megyn Kelly. Join me back here for The MK Show, live on SiriusXM's The Megyn Kelly Channel, 111 at noon East, on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, and on all podcast platforms.